everybody, and welcome to this month's Anime Paint Night. I'm Mr. Kelvin, and welcome back. So, for this month's Paint Night, for the release of, this year we had the release of Street Fighter 6, a generational landmark video game for a long-standing franchise, right? And we have a newcomer from that game that its color scheme is very good, so I thought it would be a pretty cool thing to do a paint night for them. So, in your kit, you should have a reference sheet with the character. This is Kimberly from Street Fighter 6. She's I think it's described as an urban ninja and such, right? You see the colors and everything. Then we should also have the line art that I did for us for this paint night. We should also have the watercolor. All right. So I hope we can have a good time painting this character this time around. And yeah. So let's go ahead and get started.
Alrighty, everybody, and so the first thing that we are going to start with is Kimberly's skin tone. So we're going to head towards the brown paint, and you can either start wherever you want. You can do the face, arms, core, either way. That's what we're going to do. Now, just a little background on Kimberly, right? So Kimberly, she's described as being an urban ninja. Now, that's not just on a coincidental basis where it's just yeah, that's a cool design. No, she's actually a successor to an old Street Fighter character. Despite his name not necessarily being very original, his name is Guy. He was actually a very important character. So, Bushin Ryu is the martial art that Guy was taught how to use. And eventually, he took on a student in the form of Kimberly. So now she is actually learning that martial art from Guy, and she is actually able to pass it on in the future if she decides to stick with her training. Another aspect of Kimberly, just if I could be honest and stuff, I really like how they created a new generation Street Fighter character that offers black representation in a positive light. There are Street Fighter characters who have present black representation, but there's not many, and usually Elena aside, Elena's awesome, it's not the greatest in everything. So it was really cool seeing a good positive vibe of a character who also was black. So I thought that was really cool. Now, I'm going to let you finish the skin tone here, but I want to give you a disclaimer, okay? So this was probably one of the more detailed for color that we've done in a long time for our paint nights and such. So I do skip ahead with this. So even though my voice is gone, and we might be skipping to the next one, you can feel free to pause the video and see what we've done, and then you can press play and then catch on up. So alright, we're gonna move on to our next painting target, and yeah, see you there. Sweet. Now that we have the skin tone out of the way, the next thing that we are actually going to work on is, I believe it's going to be her bandana, or her scarf that she wears underneath, right around her neck and stuff. I really like this part because of how much color there is. It's so beautiful. It almost looks like there's it has African roots or something. I want to know what Capcom is the company who made Street Fighter. I'd love to know what their inspiration was in terms of the color scheme and the character design. Very curious. But first things first, we're going to start with a little bit of green for the outer parts of the diamonds. I know the lines are kind of small and everything with the details, but it'll be worth it, promise. Then we're going to go for the red. I know when I put this red down, it's not going to look like red because I still had a little bit of green on the brush. So it kind of looks exactly like the skin tone, but that's okay. There's enough of a distinction, and maybe for you all, you can have better luck with the red and everything. And I've obviously always got to make sure that the little tip. You don't necessarily have to do full strokes when it comes to small things. Just dab a little bit and use the water to spread it around. It's all very helpful. Oh, yeah, there's a little bit of red. I can see the red. Anyway, after the bit of red for like the very blocky diamonds, we go for the purple really fast because one of those little blocky diamonds should be purple. Yes. Good, 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 good. And the next one that we're going to go for, the next color, is going to be yellow. And yellow is going to be a theme that we see throughout this paint night, this painting that you're going to be doing, like a lot. Yellow is going to be one of the strongest complementary colors. It's going to be one of the strongest colors that's going to complement like the big, bold main color that we're going to see. But yeah, you're going to be using a lot of yellow. So and don't worry, you should have enough yellow to use it for. But yeah, absolutely. Just take your time. Feel free to just dab the yellow around. Use the water when need be. Take your time. You don't have to rush. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. Always a fun thing. And I know usually like when we move on to our next painting target, we usually change colors. But as we move on to our next target, we are still going to be keeping with yellow. Alright, so as I said before, we're just going to stick with the yellow and we're going to start working on the stripes and the ribbons that basically is going to be on Kimberly's shoulders, or like the start of her arms and such. So first we'll do like the left arm, then we'll do the bow right here on the ribbon right here on the right side. Yeah, go ahead and get that yellow in there. Very nice. Very smooth. I like the character design. I like the use of the yellow as like it just ties it up with like a nice bow. I mean, I said that like figuratively, but like there's literally a bow, so that's whatever. Then you're going to do the bandages on her arms because, you know, she's a fighter. And, you know, I don't know why this is a trope, but, you know, most fighting game characters and characters that are like edgy and cool and action oriented has a lot of bandages on their arms. Sometimes it's to protect their fists or whatever, but sometimes they're just there. I like them there. It's fine. This is a callback to actually to Guy's design. Guy had those very same bandages and everything, so I think it's pretty cool. Guy actually has a rival named Maki who also has the same red and yellow design. They're both from the same Capcom beat-em-up series from the 90s called Final Fight. Kimberly is not. Kimberly is, you know, fresh from Street Fighter 6 and everything, but the color scheme is definitely there. So I was talking a lot, but now we've moved up to the headband, or like her head wrap up there. I did not draw the head wrap as like super duper accurate to the reference sheet, so you can feel free to be a little bit of creative how you want to do the head wrap in terms of coloring it. But I'm still using the yellow and green because that's at least what I interpret the headband to be looking like. I know I did with the triangles, so if you notice, I did the opposite direction with the yellow and green, depending on the side of the headband. So on the left, we have the green triangles at the bottom, the yellow triangles at the top, and vice versa on the right. I didn't actually create solid black lines for this part. The ribbon, like bow and everything, has like on the inner part has like green and red streaks, so just be careful. Like the red will definitely overtake the green, as you can see, but the green might still like survive a little bit. Like you can see a little bit of the sliver. All right, the next thing that we are going to be working on should be the main part of the gi and the main strong color. It's going to be red. Very, very strong callback to Guy's old design from Street Fighter Alpha, and not really so much from Final Fight 1. He actually didn't have red. He was like wearing orange. I guess it was like a callback to like Shaolin Kung Fu, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. But as soon as his appearance in Street Fighter Alpha happened, he had red and yellow. So this red is a callback to that for sure. So first we'll start with the top area right here for the red part of the gi. Then eventually we're going to move on to the big puffy sleeves. The big puffy sleeves are also red. Yes, so just take your time. I'm gonna be real with you. Those puffy sleeves are actually really cool. That's not something that you usually see in Guy or Maki's design, but I think it works really, really well. It is very urban. It is very like puffy hoodie coat. You know what I'm saying? Like I like it a lot. I like it a lot. So it was fun drawing this part, and it was really fun coloring it because like there's so much red. There's so much area to work with. As you can see, like as you're starting to add more of the red, you're starting to see things come together a little bit. Like when we do these paint nights and when I'm like painting with you all, sometimes I'm like, man, I don't know if this looks right. And then you get to a certain point of the paint night and you're just like, oh, okay. All right, things are like shaping up, you know. You just got to trust the process. Same thing with drawing. Same thing with most art forms, really. You just got to trust the process, keep going. Most likely, if you take a moment and stop and like look at the incomplete of your stuff, it's probably not going to be like encouraging or maybe not like what you're looking for. That's because it's not done. It's not complete. So just give yourself some time and you'll get to that point. You feel it a lot when you try to do like fan art, like what this is and everything, because it's like, I don't know if that looks like that character, but the more you continue, it's just like, oh, yep, yeah, this is definitely the character. But yeah, that was just my thoughts on that. So yeah, we're almost done with the red here. You can go back and add a little bit of shading, less water, more pigment. You can just put that on the brush and go over certain areas that need a little bit of shading, like so. And then after that, after you're done with the red, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next target. So I'll let you finish that up. Very nice stuff. So the next thing that we're going to do, as per usual for our paint nights, we're going for the hair. And the hair is usually, for the most part, one of my most favorite parts to do in our anime paint nights and such, because there's just so much to paint and it really brings the piece together. That's usually how it goes with anime. It's what it is. They've got big hair, they've got colorful hair, but this one, like, even though the color of the hair isn't necessarily like bright and stuff, I love the design of it, and I love the fact that it looks very alive. Kimberly has very, very, very long braids, and at the end of the braids, they have like a little bit of like pigment to them, a little bit of color. So there is a little bit of color in it, but it's a little bit more subtle. But before we even get to that color at the end of it, we got to make sure that we take our time and like do the black parts of the hair. Now, for sure, right? Her whole motif when she is fighting, as you know, urban ninja and stuff like that, right? She has spray paint that she uses, like graffiti cans and everything. You actually can see it a little bit in the reference sheet. When you look at that, you'll actually be able to tell. It's like, oh, so the end of her braids, is that like graffiti that she sprayed on? That's probably not healthy. Either way, I think it's just like a stylistic choice, but like it makes you wonder, did she spray graffiti at the ends of her braids? Anyway, this part, take your time. There's a lot of braid to get through. And then after you're done with the braids, after you're done taking your time, you know, we'll actually get started talking about finishing up the braids. Now, before I stop talking this part, right, I recommend, highly recommend, you're going to see it very soon. I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm going to stop like maybe a quarter of the way to the end. And then I'm going to go on to the next braids, because if you notice in the reference sheet, you have a lot of that blue pigment at the end of her braids. So I recommend, do not go all the way to the ends of the braids just yet. Stop about a quarter of the way to the end, and then like we'll move on to the next thing. So I'm gonna let you finish. Hey, would you look at that? Listen, you've done a great job so far. You're almost done. So at the end of the braids, get your red, and we're going to actually do the little bands that connect the spiky parts at the end of the braids with the longer, more flowy tentacle-like parts of the braids. Go ahead and get some red there. Very good. Calling back yet again to the main color of the gi, which is martial arts attire. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for like the sky blue paint. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to handle like the like blade-like cloud stuff at the end of her braids, right? The very tips of the braids, I'm going to use a little bit of sky blue. And obviously, you know, you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't look like the color at all. I promise you, I know. But we're actually going to use this as the first layer. We're going to use this as the first layer of the color. And I'll talk to you about like what we're going to do to make it a little bit more accurate. But first, just work on the tips of the braids. The tips of the braids. They do kind of look like blades. I think that just might be how I drew it, to be perfectly honest, because when I look at the reference sheet, it's definitely a little bit more rounded. I don't know why I decided to like make them like shuriken. Shuriken are like throwing stars from like ninja lore and stuff like that, and they were real. So once you got the tip of the braids done, go ahead and start using that same sky blue and start meeting where you stop like a quarter of the way with the black for the braids, making sure that entire area is covered. Obviously, this is not going to be the end of what we're doing with the braids, but this is going to be that first part, because the second part of what we're going to do for the braids, we are actually going to use a little bit of green. I think my brain was just like, you see how my hand is like stopped and everything. I'm just like, I don't know what I want to do next, but I'm looking at this in the future. So, you know, looking at my past self doing this. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go for the lighter green. We're going to go for the lighter green, and we're going to dab a little bit of that green and blend it in. And that's what's going to start making it look a little bit more close to what we see in the reference sheet. It's not going to necessarily like look exactly the same. Most of our paint nights don't look exactly the same of the reference sheet, but it's just a guide. So we're going to use that green, put it in the blue, and then you pick up the sky blue again, and then you blend the green and the sky blue together. That makes it even more closer to what we were doing before with the reference sheet. And it actually kind of flows very nicely. But even then, after that, we're not going to be done just yet. We're not done just yet, because we have to make sure that we blend it. If you look at the reference sheet, it's not just like black braid and then immediately blue. Go ahead and get some black paint and dab a little bit of that black in the color area, like so. Good, and then try to make it flow so it looks like it truly is a gradient. Gradient is just like moving from one color to the next. And so like, yeah, I was like, do I have it accurate? Do I have it right? But yeah, very nice. I was looking at the eye color. For the eye color, it's brown. And then after this point, you can just work on your shading and everything. But you did a fantastic job. You did a fantastic. Oh, right, the lips. Right, I did pink. You don't necessarily have to. But well done. I hope you enjoyed this paint night. Super colorful. I thought it was like really pretty. I thought it was nice. And I hope you did too. So well done yet again. And we're still doing our anime paint nights all the way through December. So we'll have one in October, we'll have one in November, we'll have one in December for sure. And if you want to try Street Fighter 6, it's out right now. T for teen and such. And you don't have to be a teen to enjoy it. You can be an adult as well. Ask parents' permission if you're younger. But yes, well done, everybody. And I will see you next month for our anime paint night. Bye-bye.